This training is an overview of Phase 3 of Mountain Empire Community College's Quality Enhancement Plan, which is Get Amped. We appreciate your continued support of our QEP. If we can ever be of assistance, please do not hesitate to let us know.
So, why are we doing this training? Well, the purpose of the training is to review the QEP with you, provide an overview of quantitative literacy in order to best teach it in our classes, introduce a quantitative literacy value rubric to you, and discuss what's next in our implementation plan for the QEP.
A QEP is a Quality Enhancement Plan. The QEP is a required component of our accreditation with SACS COC. Our QEP is Get Amped, applying mathematical principles to everyday decisions. This topic was chosen after a review of institutional data showed that QL, which is quantitative literacy, and problem solving were areas of need. Get Amped implemented in fall 2020 with our Phase 1 courses. Phase 1 courses are courses students typically take in their first semester at MECC. Likewise, Phase 2 courses are courses students typically take in their second semester, and Phase 3 classes are courses students typically take in their third semester. Before talking about this phase of QEP implementation, it would be good to look at where we are with the QEP. In order to ensure that graduating students are proficient in the area of quantitative literacy, students will encounter different aspects of quantitative literacy in each semester of their degree program. We began Phase 1 in fall 2020. The courses selected for Phase 1 are courses students typically take in their first semester at MECC, and those classes focus on calculation and interpretation. These are kind of the initial skills students need to be successful with quantitative literacy. In Phase 2 classes, we focused on application analysis and assumptions, so taking their interpretation of the data just a little bit farther. Phase 3 classes, which is what you all are teaching, those classes focus on representation and communication, and this presentation will focus a bit on what those items are and how we can assess them and include them within our own classes. Before getting into aspects of QL you'll be emphasizing though, let's think about quantitative literacy in general.
So, what is quantitative literacy? Well, during our literature review for the QEP, we ran across a couple of definitions that we really liked and thought that it pretty much summated what our QEP is. The first one is from Elrod, who states that quantitative literacy is the application of basic mathematics skills to the analysis and interpretation of real-world quantitative information in the context of a discipline or an interdisciplinary problem to draw conclusions that are relevant to the students in their daily lives. It goes back to the statement that math is not just math, or math is just not for a mathematics class. We use it every day, whether it's time management, whether it's calculating to if we can afford to buy a new car or buy a new home, whatever the case may be. For students, how to pay for tuition, how to get books, how to make it to school, find a babysitter, that kind of thing. It's just using these complex interdisciplinary problems the students are faced with and how to draw a conclusion from that using quantitative literacy. The other one was from Henry Pollack. She is visiting professor of mathematics at Columbia University. He stated the heart of quantitative literacy is real-world problem solving, the use of mathematics in everyday life, on the job, and as an intelligent citizen. And I think that sums it up because we're working on quantitative literacy skills and developing those skills to improve the students' overall problem solving ability, which employers ask for all the time. I always kind of fall back on healthcare, but everything that we do in healthcare is being able to take and analyze lab values, numbers, being able to formulate a diagnosis from that, and then come up with some type of medication or therapy to help the patient with that. So, we need those good problem solving skills, which is based on quantitative literacy skills, especially in healthcare. So, what do these definitions have in common? Well, quantitative literacy involves real life situations. In other words, outside of the classroom. So, the students have real life situations they face on a daily basis, whether it's buying new tires for their car, having to pay utilities, having to pay rent, having to have the money to pay for a babysitter, whatever the case may be. So it takes quantitative literacy skills for those students to be able to solve problems in their real life situations. Then quantitative literacy involves problem solving, and problem solving is multifaceted. Quantitative literacy skills is a component of that, but also is scientific literacy, so is critical thinking. So quantitative literacy involves problem solving. So part of quantitative literacy skills you get will ultimately help you with your problem solving. And then quantitative literacy involves the synthesis of several skills. And as we learn with our value rubrics, so several of those skills, including interpretation, calculation, application, analysis, assumptions, communication, representation, those are some of the skills that will come together and synthesize to improve the students' overall quantitative literacy skills. And again, quantitative literacy is not a separate skill in or of itself. Rather, it is infused in mathematics and indeed most areas of curricula and everyday life. So why should we teach quantitative literacy? Well, teaching quantitative literacy skills can help our students answer real-world questions and address problems they will face in their daily lives. A great example is time management, thus becoming stronger, more responsible students and ultimately stronger and more responsible employees. Many of the new and future jobs we see today require strong critical thinking and problem solving skills. So, teaching quantitative literacy will help build the foundation for improving the skills in critical thinking and problem solving. And there is a considerable wage premium for workers that have strong quantitative skills today, leading them to more job security and a more stable income, thus making our students and graduates more successful.
As you can see, quantitative literacy is not a subject that could or should only be taught in mathematics classes. Instead, it's a skill that we should embed and emphasize across the curriculum. In your course, you'll emphasize the below aspects of quantitative literacy, and those are communication and representation. To do this, to assess student work in quantitative literacy, we'll be using AAC&U's value rubric. The Association of American Colleges and Universities Valid Assessment of Learning in Undergraduate Education rubrics are a tool to assess students' authentic work across fields of study to determine whether and how well students are meeting specific competencies. One thing that you'll notice about this rubric as you look at it a bit further is that it's not necessarily program or department specific. It's something that we're going to be able to use across the college. The rubrics were developed by teams of faculty across the nation in different disciplines. And as of December 2015, the rubrics have been accessed by more than 70,000 individuals from almost 6,000 unique institutions. And the excellent thing about that is that we are able to compare our students' work in quantitative literacy to student work across the nation in the same area. For the QEP, we're using the quantitative literacy value rubric because it's a valid form of assessment. Many of you most likely utilize rubrics in your own classroom, but just to refresh, rubrics really allow us to score student work using a consistent set of standards. So for the QEP, we want to make sure that our students are meeting specific competencies and are proficient in certain areas of quantitative literacy. Also, the great thing about the rubric is that we're going to be able to compare student scores across semesters and across courses. Most importantly, we can use what we learn to improve. So if we see that there is a bit of a deficiency in a certain area, we can work to correct that. In your the first step before having the second, just like with one of the quantitative, much like you can situate your QL assignment as you see fit in your course, although I would recommend fitting it within an existing unit. You don't want your QL assignment to seem like it's just been added to the class. Instead, you want it to fit in, as these QL skills are something we want to emphasize as important across the board. So if I already had a unit on argumentation, my QL assignment may fit in well there. Your QL assignment does not have to be heavily weighted within your course. You as the instructor choose whether this is a high stakes or a low stakes assignment in your class. And I've done it both ways. I have one class that I have a QL assignment as the final exam, but I have another one where it is a smaller assignment that leads up to an essay. It's really up to you to see how this assignment, based on the assignment that you create and implement, fits in best. Again, we don't want it to stick out. We want it to flow naturally. So that being said, it could vary by instructor and by course layout. The assignment, though, should be required. Do not make this an extra credit assignment or an optional assignment. This is something we do want students to be required to do. Like we said, so what's next? You will need to. Lastly, thank you so much for your commitment to this QEP. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us. We hope that you all have a wonderful school year, and again, we appreciate you. Thank you.